Further, Israel's special forces have just invaded Syria, went on with the recon units, captured key locations, followed by the entire... It must have been a celebration for all these pilots. You know, this is a wet dream for every fighter pilot or a bomber. And just in 2 days, completely wiping out their entire army. What a... Israel have just launched the biggest airstrike attack in the history of this country. This is the first time that Israel have completely wiped out an enemy country's air force since Egypt in the Six-Day War. Oh, the MiGs, oh, the Sukhoi, Russia must be pissed. All these engineers in Russia that build these airplanes are watching right now and saying, oh my God, what did Israel just do? In 1 day, in 2 days, went on and completely wiped out from the face of this earth the entire Syrian Air Force. It must have been a celebration for all these pilots. You know, this is a wet dream for every fighter pilot or a bomber. Going around to the enemy country that want to destroy you and just in 2 days completely wiping out their entire army. What a brilliant strategic military move by Israel. Further, they went on bombing military sites, the entire air defense system of Syria, research facilities. Well, you see, when you are a radical Muslim country and you have a research scientific facility, let's just say they're not working on bringing a cure for cancer. They're not working on finding a way to improve the lives of bees so they can preserve humanity and get us to Mars. They're either working on making chemical weapons or trying to get a nuclear bomb, or it's a drug factory because they want to sponsor the terrorist activity by selling drugs and destroying humans' lives. Further, Israel's special forces have just invaded Syria, went on with the recon units, captured key locations, followed by the entire army to go and establish some kind of a buffer zone inside of Syrian territory across the Israeli border. And there is 2 good reasons for doing that. And I'm gonna break it down for you and try to explain it in the most simple way. The first reason is you need to understand the Assad regime was a sworn enemy of Israel, an enemy that wanted to wipe out Israel, an enemy that was so evil. You can just see right now what they have done to their own people. You're gonna be hearing right now the stories from the prisons in Syria where people are coming out and telling you how they used chemical weapons, how they used acid to melt down the bodies, how they were crushing people alive, making them disappear. Literally modern day concentration camps, Nazi concentration camps in Syria. However, the West remains silent. They're not talking about it. Where are the voices? Where are the voices of all these students in the college in the US that want to go and fight for a good cause? When will you guys stop missing the target and actually go and shout for a good cause, for the cause of the people in Syria who suffered under the Assad regime? Even though Obama tried to erase the asset of evil and take away the countries out of the saying they're not really evil, it's coming to light now how evil they are. Just watch all the stories that are going to be coming out of the prisons in Syria and you'll understand what is the Assad regime capable for and what was it planning on doing to its enemies. The only reason they did not use these capabilities against Israel is because Israel didn't let them, because they were afraid that Israel would destroy them if they tried to do that. So Israel, with this brilliant strategic military move, went on and said, we are going to take advantage of what's happening right now. We're going to completely destroy this enemy country's military, which is a very wise thing to do with your enemies. Second reason, and not less important, the rebels who have just took over Syria, they're either Al-Qaeda, ISIS, or some extreme radical jihadist factions. These are the same people that not long ago were beheading journalists, and now they're saying Syria is free for journalists to come. Jolani, the leader of Syria, was with Al-Qaeda, was with ISIS, he's a radical jihadist. And just the fact that he shaved his beard does not change the fact that he's a radical jihadist. And just like I said in my last video, mark my words, soon enough you're gonna see them executing people right, left, and center without any trial. They actually started doing that. You're gonna start seeing them turning on each other. The moderate Syrians and the radicals are gonna start fighting. The radicals are gonna come and start, kidnapping Yazidi girls. They're gonna try to kill the Druze, the Christians, and any other opposition in that country. And Israel obviously is not gonna let them take a hold of these airplanes, these military bases, these chemical weapons, and etc. Part of the reason that Israel have invaded Syria, that Israel went and completely destroyed the Syrian Air Force and badly damaged the Syrian military, is because Israel does not want these weapons to fall into the hand of radical jihadists. Israel is right now standing on the fence, observing, watching what's going to happen next. And they are very fixed on not letting another October 7 happen from Syria. There is so many videos of these rebels in Syria speaking about how they want to go and conquer Jerusalem. They want to go all the way to Mecca. They want to conquer the whole Arab world. They want to bring the ancient Muslim nation and conquer the world. Let's just say these are not the best neighbors you can have. And Israel have a very good reason. First of all, to destroy the Assad regime army. And second of all, to destroy any chance for these rebels to use these weapons against Israel. And by doing that, they're actually helping the Syrians, because often what happens in these Muslim countries, when they can't use these capabilities against their enemies, they end up using it against their own people or simultaneously. And as we're seeing right now, stories from the prisons of Syria where tens of thousands of people were kidnapped without any trial, just disappeared, executed in the most horrible ways, either melting them by acid or crushing the bodies. Modern day Nazi concentration camps are happening in Syria as we talk. And where is the liberal media? Where is the mainstream media? Where are all these college students in the US when you need them finally to actually make a shout for a good cause? Not to make a shout because the Jews are not letting anyone genocide them, but to make a shout for a good cause. Silent. Radio silence. So all in all, Israel here finally started speaking the language of the Arab men. And we're seeing here results. Now, I'm not going to give all the credit to Israel. I love Israel, it's my country, but obviously they did that only after October 7th. They should have been doing that way long ago. They just woke up now to do that. And by doing that, they were not directly trying to liberate Syria. But look what happened. Israel flexed a little bit muscle, started speaking Arabic with the Arabs, and Hezbollah's chain of command completely down. Hamas' chain of command completely down. Hamas is literally destroyed. Gaza has been obliterated. 90% of the people of Gaza celebrate October 7th. So let's be honest, they kind of brought this on themselves. Until today, there's not a single hostage in Gaza that was released by the Gazans and given to Israel. So that just shows you how oppressed and radical the Gazans are. Lebanon is getting a chance to be freed out of its radical jihadist regime. Syria just had another chance to get freed out of a radical jihadist regime. Iran's claws have been completely cut down and weakened. Now they can't control. Here's a quick explanation about this. The reason Syria was such an asset for Iran, because when Syria was about to be overthrown by the rebels, by the Syrian citizens, the Assad made a deal with the devil. He basically made a deal with Russia and Iran. I will give you whatever you want, just save me. And they went in and just started killing indiscriminately all the Syrians in the hundreds of thousands. Bombing schools, bombing markets, just literally killing innocent people. I have Syrian friends that told me that until today they are traumatized. Whenever they hear a helicopter or a motorcycle in the streets, they get a panic attack. And the reason for that, because when they were kids in Syria, they have seen their friends killed in front of their eyes. They have seen helicopters flying over their heads, dropping barrels of explosives into populated locations in cities, markets, schools, indiscriminately killing people. So for Iran, having a free zone to work and maneuver around Syria with counting on the Syrian air defense, which was one of the most densely populated air defense silos in the face of this earth. And the reason for that, because they saw that that's the only way that they might have a chance to stop Israel from stopping them from doing all the bad things they wanted to do. So for Iran, that was a perfect place to smuggle all of its weapons into Lebanon, to keep oppressing Lebanon, and to keep threatening Israel with an October 7th with a genocide. So with that happening, with Israel going and destroying all these Air Force silos, with going around destroying the Air Force, destroying the military in Syria, and also in some ways helping the rebels take down the Assad regime, because these rebels are sworn enemies of Iran as well. Many of them just want to kick the Iranians and the Russians out of the country. Israel have ensured a better stability for the Middle East and for the borders with Israel. And like I said in many of my videos, the only hope for stability in the Middle East is Israel. And if Israel is left alone and allowed to operate against its enemies, you're gonna start seeing sparks of stability in the Middle East. You can't trust the Europeans. It's sad to say you can't trust the Americans. They cannot come and tell us how to bring peace and stability to the Middle East. They don't know how to do it, and especially when it's run by the Democrats, they have not only no clue how to do it, they're being used as a useful idiot in a government level. You know, we're not talking about a college student wearing keffiyeh and waving a flag of Hezbollah. We're talking about Biden and Kamala going around and doing everything they can to help save the neck of Iran so they can get a nuclear weapon, to help save the neck of Lebanon, of Hezbollah, so they can keep oppressing its people, to help save the neck of Palestine, of Assad regime, every bad player out there, every bad jihadist dictator under the Democrats was having a much better life to keep doing the terrible crimes that they did. Under the Republicans, it looks like it's not going to be as good for them. Way bad, especially under Trump. It sounds like he's coming very serious with a clear agenda to help destroy and stop the Iranian aggression in the Middle East. If you ask me, I really hope that someone will finally wake up and start taking down the Iranian regime. And I've said that before in many videos, and I'm going to say that again. If you want to know if taking down a dictator is a good thing or a bad thing, I know it sounds silly to even say it, look at the people that will rejoice, look at the people that will be very sad. If you take down Assad, who is rejoicing? Basically everyone living in Syria and around Syria. If you take down Hezbollah, who is rejoicing? Obviously Israel and every Syrian or Lebanese that are under that oppression. Who is sad? Iran is sad, Hezbollah is sad, the Houthis are sad, Putin and Russia are sad. The bad players are sad, the good players are happy. So what happened here with Syria is a good thing. Now, will they be able to recover the country and make it a better place? I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think so. I don't think that replacing Assad with a radical ISIS, Daesh, Al-Qaeda-like dictators is going to make any difference. It might actually make it even worse. But that does not mean that you should not do that. It means that you should take him down and them down. Evil is evil. Doesn't matter which face it comes with. And as long as you let evil just grow stronger and stronger, you're increasing the chance for terrible things to happen. Long story short, this attack of Israel on Syria to destroy its army, this invasion of Israeli forces to enter the border of Syria and take control over the Golan Heights, take control over the border with Israel, is not only a brilliant strategic move, it is the right thing to do. It is the responsible thing to do. And they're talking about it. They're probably going to stay there for months because we can't expect the Syrian rebels now to establish a functioning government in days. Here's an interesting fact that might have went over the head of many people who are watching it. The rebels have toppled Assad regime and took over the government. Now these rebels are a bunch of Al-Qaedas going Allahu Akbar. They don't really know how to govern a nation. They don't really know how to establish a proper law system, education system. They don't really know how to properly establish, science and economy and all these things. So what they do if they're smart, and we saw that actually in the days of the Prophet, in the days of the early Islam, actually a little bit after the Prophet, when they went and expanded the empire and suddenly they became from a bunch of raiding Bedouins on horses and camels going around and just Allahu Akbar killing anyone around them, they suddenly had an empire in their hand, a mini empire, and then they took the Persian Empire down, and now they had a bigger empire. Now what they did with the Persian Empire, they realized, okay guys, this is becoming a little bit too big for us. We're not accountants, we don't really know how to do these things. But these guys know, they're very good at it. So what they did is, they didn't execute and kill all the Persians. They forced them to convert. Part of the reason that Islam have these really strict laws against people that they conquer is to either, push them to the corner where they're going to be executed as infidels, or they will convert. The only one that they don't have to convert are the Jews and the Christians, the people of the book, because theologically wise, they're considered as the people who brought them the book. Islam, look at it that way. That's how Islam sees Christianity and Judaism. They say God gave the word to Moses, to the Jews, and he told them to spread it with the world. And the Jews, instead of spreading it with the world, decided to keep it for themselves. And then God punished them and told them, you're going to stay in the desert, and didn't let them into the Holy Land. And then he passed the torch to Jesus, to Christians. You go now and spread the light of the word to the four corners of the earth. The Christians did a great job in doing that. That's as per Islam. But their terrible sin was that instead of spreading only God, there's only one God, they decided to make God three: God the Son, God the Father, God the Holy Spirit. And that was a terrible sin. And that's why God decided to abandon them, to punish them, and brought the torch to Muhammad, which is the seal of the prophets, the last prophet to walk this earth. And Islam is the last updated version of how a religion should be. So that's how Islam sees it. So when they went and they conquered their big empire, they basically forced everybody to convert and decided to use the knowledge that they had. So the Persians were really good at running a government. They were really good in keeping a textbook, were really good in doing all the things that you need to have a functioning empire. Because obviously they had an empire for hundreds of years, so they had a lot of experience. So what the rebels right now in Syria are doing, they're kind of taking the Assad government and they're telling them, okay guys, you stay here, you help us, pass the torch to us. Probably after that, they're going to execute them. And then we will control and we'll start establishing this country. So Israel need to wait now and just carefully watch how are the rebels in Syria going to handle this new government that they had. Are they going to really make it a better place like they're promising, a better place for Christians, for Druze, for the Kurdish, for anyone who's not Muslim, and including for Muslims around them? Or are they just going to turn it into another Afghanistan, another Iraq, another failing country that is heavily oppressed by jihadist radical groups? In Syria, the rebels are not the only force fighting. There's a lot of forces right now, a lot of different rebel groups and jihadist groups that also seize controls of areas, and they hold very different ideologies about how they see the Muslim empire, the Muslim nation of Syria should be running and functioning. So destroying the military of Syria and also conquering parts in Syria and holding them as a buffer zone is definitely the right thing, the smartest thing, and the most moral and responsible thing for Israel to do. And we're going to be hearing soon. Well, maybe not in the next few days. We're going to probably seeing a lot of terrible things happening, but slowly, we're going to start seeing which direction is Syria going, the direction of the radicals or the direction of the moderate. I personally think that it's more likely that they will go the direction of the radicals. I'm not canceling the option, but from my experience and understanding of Islam, that's usually how things go and turn out in Muslim countries. They just change one dictator with another dictator, which brings me to the point. Democracy does not work in Muslim countries, not yet. Muslim countries, the successful ones, have a strong leader that is very moral and that have a vision. And he holds his country with a strong fist and he leads them, and they like that. They like to admire him, to build statues and songs about him. Democracy, bringing too much freedom to an Arab Muslim country, usually ends up with a catastrophe, with a chaos, and with a breeding ground for a lot of terrorists. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, guys, and if it was informative and you liked it, feel free to do the like, share, subscribe, the whole shebang. If you want to support this channel so I can keep growing the channel and doing this job for you, go and check my Patreon where you can find direct ways to support my work, because after all, I am doing this for free and out of my own free time. But until then, don't do anything stupid. And in general, it's kind of became a tradition in this channel. I always need to bring some word of wisdom in the end. In general, don't blindly follow mainstream media. It saddens me to say, but you can't really trust mainstream media nowadays. They have been heavily influenced by propaganda, by money, and by different forces with different agendas telling them what to say. You can just look at the conflict between Israel and Palestine. How quick were the Western media to always blame Israel and believe the terrorists? I mean, you don't need to have a degree from university to know that if your source for reliable information is a jihadist terrorist or a journalist who's living under a jihadist terrorist country that is obviously oppressing free speech and killing any opposition, you don't need to be rocket science to know that they're telling you what they want you to hear. They're telling you and they're hiding from you so many things. Look at what's happening in Syria right now, and look at all the filth that is coming out and all the terrible, hideous things that we're starting to hear that were happening under the Assad regime. Now, I can assure you 100% that mainstream Western media would have probably believed Assad over than believing Israel, would have probably believed Syria when they will talk about, oh, the crimes that Israel is committing against the Palestinians, and they will just celebrate that, but they will not talk about the crimes that Assad is doing against his own country. They will not talk about the crimes of Islam against Sudan and other stuff. So Anyone who is watching it right now can easily understand that mainstream media have lost its credibility. And it saddens me to say that, but that's why podcasts like my podcast and others are starting to get more attention, because people are getting fed up with being shoved and pushed propaganda into their mouth, into their throats, and they're saying, we just want to listen to people who have knowledge and wisdom, who are not biased, who are not bought by one of these organizations. And in this case, I can promise you that no one have bought me. So yeah, that's my word of wisdom for today, guys. Just really check carefully what you're listening. And I will even add that I am not a journalist. I don't have a media company behind me. I don't have a team of analytics. Everything that I'm telling you here is coming from my experience as a military officer, commander in the IDF, as an Arab from the Middle East, as someone who studied these topics in university. And it's coming out of my own time, my own free time, and I might do a mistake. I might sometimes not have all the time that I need to properly research. Yes, I talk to my relatives in Syria. I talk to a lot of my Syrian friends. I've been to Palestine. I've been to Jordan. I've been to Lebanon. I've been to Syria. I've been to these places. I lived in the West. I lived in Europe. I lived in America. I traveled South America. So I'm helping a friend build a school, an orphanage in Africa as we speak. So yes, I do have a vast world knowledge, but I'm still very likely to do a mistake. And I feel like it's my obligation to put it on the table. Everything that you hear, check it out. Check it out, go confirm it, go listen to different types of media sources. It's hard to know who's speaking the truth and who's not, so if I was you, I will make it a habit for myself. In the morning when I wake up, I'll go and I would listen to my favorite podcaster, hopefully it's me, and then I'll go, let's see what CNN are saying. Obviously they're gonna say that, they're very pushed towards that direction. Let's go to Fox, let's see what they're saying. Obviously they have an agenda to go that direction. Let's go to Al Jazeera. Let's go to other media sources, Europeans, Israelis, Arab world. And then you'll have a better picture. But with that, always keep a moral compass, which obviously have been lost and stolen from the academia. But in the normal average household, I believe that it still exists. Because there's no morally bankrupt professors that have been pushing down and eliminating. There's no woke ideology that took out common sense. So if you're not infected by the woke ideology virus and you have a free mind to think for yourself, go and check all these sources of media so you can have a better understanding of what's happening. Until then, guys, thank you so much for staying. Stay safe and don't do anything stupid. And yep. And that's all I have to say about that.